So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live Thursday show. I've mixed 21 colours from my 6 favourite. So they were £1.99 each. I did originally get them for 99p if they're on offer. So I paid short of £8 for my favourite best colours, and from these colours you can make any other colour. So we've got a lemon yellow, cadmium red, Elysian crimson, French ultramarine and cerulean blue. And with these 6 colours there isn't a colour you can't make. So I've only done so many because I wanted them to dry in this Frisk, I think it is, this particular one. It's a fold palette and you've got 2 layers to use for mixing, including this. So I made my browns and some olives and I got a bit carried away. So we have a Van Dyke brown, and then we have Payne's grey, and one in the middle, we'll see what colour that is. It'll be a very dark green. We've got our siennas, our umbers, raw yellow ochre, we have an olive green, and then we have our bright greens. I made the blues, a couple of blues, I made a couple of reds, a couple of oranges, and I like this palette because from these colours you then can make any other colours you want. So remember with watercolour, and these are the Cotman chewed watercolours. We've now made them into little pans, and you can actually put them into pans. And I bought some. There's 2 sizes. There's the full sized and the tiny size, half size pans, and the tubes will fill them, so you know it's probably cheaper to buy those and let them dry out. Oopsie. So I've made those colours, and I thought I haven't coloured this page in. This is from Johanna Basford's Magical Jungle, so I thought I would, I'm going to move this to the side and you might be able to see what I'm doing. I've got a cheapo, nothing written on it, colour brush. Now actually it's not in bad condition because when you twist it, it goes to a point, so it would be okay for a colour book, but I'm using that for mixing. And then I've got my number 2 and number 1 Dale Rowney riggers. I've got my 10-0, and then I've got a Pro Art Series 64 half rigger, and that gives the best of both worlds. So I've got a fat one, a medium one, and then a very fine one. And you wet them and draw them back and you get the points. So that's the way to do it. So we dunk and we draw it backwards, twisting. Now you can do it on a baby wipe, you can do it on a face wipe, you can do it on a hand wipe. Not kitchen paper, not toilet paper. Anything that disintegrates is no good. Face wipes are good, but eventually this is going to get very wet, so you need to squeeze it out. But I'm trying to get away from baby wipes, so I'm recycling my face wipes, and it didn't look like this. I've used it today. Obviously when I've not worn makeup, I still use a face wipe when I put my face cream on, and so it's a good idea to redo that. So I'm getting rid of my baby wipes because it's a waste on the planet. And I'm just dunking, and again I'm using my Elizabeth Arden Visible Difference face cream as a water pot, and the lid has become the little well for the drop of water. Now I did make these about half an hour ago and they have dried. The green ones dried, some have dried. We'll see what happens. I may spray them. I do have one of these little water sprays, so I may actually spray them. We'll see what the water does. The ones I've bought, no, these are horrible. The best one to use is the hand sanitizer one, and I can't spray this one. This is a bacterial hand spray. Oh, it's a breath spray. Oh, I didn't know that. Anyway, it's a beautiful fine spray. You can get a hand sanitizer one as well. Oh, everything smells minty fresh now. That's a lovely little size to go in a paintbrush. This one goes out in a blob. Yeah, so I'm not really happy with that one. And these were specially bought to spray. So again, sometimes you buy things and they're not as good as recycling. So no, in my handbag, in my pencil case, I don't have a spray. Typical, bear with me a second, somewhere I have quite a few of them. I've rearranged things in the studio, but I haven't labelled anything. So it's not quite as easy finding things. Case. We'll just have to look in the drawer. Here we have one. Unfortunately, these are all full. Oh, goodness. Everyone is full. Because I bought these for my daughters and I must have had them. Oh, there's no top on that one. Absolutely hundreds of years, because now they've been at university for years. Well, I shall steal the top off one. And you buy 10 in a pack of these instant hand sanitizer sprays. And you buy, I think I bought 10 from the pound shop. And I hate to do this, but it's got some in. I shall put that somewhere. Oh, put it in there. That might go in there. Yep, it's gone in there. So if I put some water in this one, we'll be in business. And you see the difference in the spray, so much difference. And again, I bought these for the girls because they put them in the pencil cases. So of course you can put it in your pencil case. You must make sure you wash it out first though. And it's not working. Typical, it's not working. Can't imagine where I've put the one that I use. I have 4 pots. Ah, I found it. So I've got to put that one on the floor because I know that one's got spray in it. Oh no, that's not it. I have things so handy, they're not. I'm sure my children go in here and find things and think that, oh, I quite fancy that, well then I shall just take it, she won't miss it. He's probably staring at me in the face. Okay, It's so handy. No, it's going to have to be the old-fashioned way of dipping a brush. It's going to have to be the old-fashioned way, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. I thought I would have one so handy. But I'm not quite organised in the studio yet. Oh my goodness. Giggle. Bless. Yeah, so they're dried out now. Probably a water brush splodge. But actually I can show you how to do watercolouring with more control. So we have a damp. We'll take the number, what we're going to do first. Let's have a look. I'll zoom in a second. So actually probably it's better because I can show you with a damp brush how easy it is to pick colour up. Because I don't think I want to mix. I've got 21 colours. I don't think I need any more. I think that's fine. So if I put that there, I can put that to that side, and then I'm not crossing all the time. We can see what happens with these colours. I like to be comfortable, so I've got water pot, twist, pick up colour, colour. That's how I like to work. It's got to be easy for me. So I shall zoom in. So we've got a parrot there, and parrots kind of have I like to use the number 1 Dale Rowney rigger. It's an all good all-rounder, and you pick the size of the tip towards what you're going to do if you want a watercolour effect. So let's see if we can get a watercolour effect. So this is the, and what we're technically doing is this. So we're getting hold of the colour. And we're kind of mixing it. I kind of like that. So what we could do is just pull that down there. I don't think I've normally worked like this, but you've got a little bit of a, maybe we just do a little bit there. And remember, this is a watercolour, so you can still manoeuvre it about. You don't want to play too much because it is a colour page, but you can manoeuvre it. So I do have a nice little highlight just there. So we have, right, just have this. Round to there. There we go. So we could possibly get a turquoise colour going. So we'll use our cheapy brush and we'll pick up a little bit of this. So I said that was a sap green, so actually it's quite a good sap green, is that? And we'll just mix those together. Oh, beautiful peacock green, I would call that. So let's pick some of that colour up, and if you want it a little bit bluer. So that's quite nice, because I wanted to make a turquoise, and I think I've made a turquoise colour. So we've got, that's turquoise green, so with a smidgen more blue. It's almost like a butterfly. Yep, it's like a butterfly blue, is that? So I quite like that. I'm going to have to go that way because I went over it. I'm using very little paint so that it's going all on the page and nothing's going in the water pot. I think I just need a touch of orange, and these are a lot paler because I'm not using. I'm going to put that yellow over there to just darken that, and then I think we're going to have a red beak, but I think it's probably going to be a bit stronger than that. So that's quite a little bright. Now we have a monkey here. So we'll look at our fawns and our browns. We could look at our Van Dyke brown and see if we're going to have a brown monkey. So you'd either call that Van Dyke brown, or, and again, just like we normally do, the brush manipulates the colour round. Oh, I have lost that lovely highlight, but that's fine. And this is movable because it's the you've got to be comfortable there. So again, I want to start here and move up. So it's a little bit wetter than I'd like to work, but this Johanna book can kind of cope with that. And he's got a cadmium yellow banana in his hand. He's going to have white socks, white face, and we'll just see I think it was a combination of both, to see if we had Payne's grey. It's in between. I've got 3 in betweens. I think I might just use a bit of that actually here. I've got a very dark kind of green colour. And then we'll go back for the tail. And again, this is another peaceful way to work. You're mixing colours, but you're not taking tops off every minute because you've already got all your colours there. And again, I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, thank you, Kingo, thank you. So we've got some nice leaves. The ivy one, of course, now we can use our ivy colour here. So we can test it first. And decide if it's green enough. I think that's probably like yellow ochre, and this is the one that I said was yellow ochre. So yeah, that's definitely a yellow ochre. So I've got yellow ochre, and then I've got kind of a darker ochre. I can live with that. This was the red, the brick red. Yep, that's a red brick. This was the burnt umber, the very dark. And then this was the paler one. So I've got some nice browns there. I think a mixture of these two. That's a bit too green. Just a touch too green again. We need that blue coming. Almost Payne's grey. Almost Payne's grey. Needs a bit more blue. Yep, Payne's grey. And Payne's grey is there. So it's round about here with the Van Dyke brown, which is that brown but darker. Burnt umber with French ultramarine gives you Van Dyke brown, and then more ultramarine gave me that lovely dark nutty green, the darker green. But then here is, I would call this Prussian blue or indigo. Probably this is indigo. That's indigo. So if we take that back between this one and this one, here, we've got Payne's grey. So when that dries, oh, that's Payne's grey. But I've got 3 other colours as well. It was if I squeezed out some Payne's grey, I wouldn't have got those lovely colours. So, I wanted an olive colour. So I'm going to take the mixing brush, and I do have a big pot of water because got some blue in there from that turquoise. So we're going to take this green here. Oops, and it's still quite tacky, so I'm going to put it in this corner. So that's quite a nice bright green. And I'm going to put a scoop of orange. And that's quite a lot, that. But I want every scrap out of there. And in fact, what I'm going to do, because I'm a tight Yorkshire lass, I'm going to dampen the brush, and I'm going to use this olive on the brush, and that gives me a lovely paler olive. And you can have it greener if you want. I'm just trying to think of it. Maybe that one is olive green, the bigger ones. Let's pick up a bit more. That's a better colour. Yeah, happy with that one. So I would call that one an olive brown, and I would call this one an olive. Oopsie. Now they're going to be a lot stronger on the paintbrush, but I'm using them opaque. You can see through this. And if you keep going, different ones will be slightly different, because that rigger is still working as a rigger. So it's always going to be releasing different tones. Oh, thank you, Kingo, thank you. So again, I want the little olive ones to stay the same. Because we're going to have lots of other different greens. That one I think is different, that one. It's the little heart ones that I want to do. It's the olive ones. And they all tend to change colour on you when you least expect it. So sometimes it's better to, I think actually, I'm not sure if I want to do that, these colours, but I have this colour on the end here, so I don't want to get rid of it. Again, can't quite bring myself to rinse out this brush, because I'll probably colour all these leaves with this if I wanted to. There's so much colour on this brush, and when you rinse your brush out and your water turns colour, it's just money going down the drain. And I know I shouldn't be such a tight Yorkshire lass, but I can't help it. I can't help it. And I can just pick up a bit of that pure colour. And get some nice highlights on these. And I like pale colours. I mean, I can do them very strong if I want to, but I don't really think I want to. One thing I can't really do is just start painting with this, unless it was a big area. If it was a big area, then I could. But seeing as I've done these olive now, I don't really want to change the colours too much. Now, I can go over this tomorrow. Once it's dried, I can go back over it, and I can do all sorts of things if I want to. I just like these lovely olivey pale colours. And of course the other leaves are going to be completely different. So I can change the colour afterwards, but you know, I just want to show how much colour you can get off these brushes that we rinse the colour away because we've mixed the colour and we think we don't want it anymore. I once put my Gansai Tambi watercolours, brush a bit thicker than this, and I did 20 colour pages, putting in 36 pages, 36 squares of colour, the Gansai Tambi watercolours that are in my little book of watercolours, and of course you mixed the colour and scooped it up and twisted it onto the palette. Then you had all this paint, and I thought, well, I can't throw it away, so I just opened pages and did certain colours, started with vivid colours and got paler and paler and paler, and I ended up with 20 colour book pages. So every time, if you wash your colour brush out with your brush out 36 times, you can get, you're wasting 20 colour pages of colour. And you know, that's the experiment I did. It took 4 hours to do it. It took a long time. And the video is very poor quality. It is up, but it's extremely poor quality because it was 1:30 in the morning and I was whispering. But it is up there to see just how much you waste when you empty your brushes. And even though I can afford to buy others, I just don't like waste. You know, that paint was put in that tube to colour. It wasn't put in the tube to go down the drain. So I just find myself... Now let's see what happens if we do this. You see, it's a lot stronger. And you can get the variegated leaves. You see how strong it is, but the rigour is keeping it, so we can have a variegated ivy now. And it makes these lovely soft ones. Stand out a bit more now. Now it is very warm in this room, hence the fan, otherwise I'd be melting. But it's still a quite peaceful way to work, to build up these lovely colours on this floral page. And you can always go back in there and do some highlights and lowlights and whatever you want. And it's getting a bit dry now, is this paintbrush, but what we can do is we can dunk the tip in water, just the tip, and that's reconstituted it. It's being wet again now. So if you had a lot of similar leaves, it would look quite nice, that. So we need a little bit of variation, don't we? So perhaps this tip could be smaller, maybe. I don't know if those are twisting round, perhaps not. So I can use this brush now, and I can kind of pick some other green up, and that brush has mixed this green now, so we've had a little bit of the olive in it, and now I can actually use it for the bigger ones. I think we could use it for the bigger ones if we're careful. Remember what we said about these brushes, they're designed to just ooze colour out, and that's what they're doing. So there's no watercolour here. As soon as you touch that tip, whoosh, the colour comes out, which is why I prefer a rigger. You only get a small damp measure at a time. But again, it's slightly better than putting it down the drain. And these have turned out to be quite nice soft leaves. So dip the tip, just the tip in, and then bend it a bit, and what you're doing is manipulating the colour that's dried further up the brush and easing it down to mix with the tip that's now damp. And this technique is the one that I used, and eventually you can get every scrap of paint out of this brush. And I had a jam jar, and at the end of it the jam jar was clear, even though I'd had a brush twice as big as this completely stuffed with colour. You do need a big surface though, because you've got to bend, you've got to mix the colour, that's the trick. So they were big spaces, they weren't tiny spaces. There were mandalas which I wouldn't normally like to paint and colour. So you're manipulating the colour from the top of the brush to make its way down to the tip to mix with the drop of tiniest tip that you put in the water. And then when it gets dry, you do the same again. And every time it gets that little bit paler. So if you really wanted to, you wouldn't have to waste a scrap of paint, not a molecule. And as I say, as a just a pure test, I coloured a whole page. Well, I coloured 20 pages. But the colours I got were just spectacular, from the strongest reds to the softest colours. See, it's not mixing, so I need a big space. And you can see the colour now mixes again. So you need a big space, but you can keep going until you get absolutely softest, palest colours out from a right rich, deep green. Now I'm not going to do that because it takes hours. It took 4 hours, but you can get the idea. You get the idea. So now I've got this little bit here. Again, now I've got a damp rigger. It's probably a bit too damp now. But it is okay for this particular page, because, and then you can pick some back up if you wanted. Take it somewhere else. Now these are very, very pale colours, so You could use them as a backing, and then kind of go back in at a later date. I'm going to carry on because I don't want too strong of colours. I don't think I can put shadows and highlights in later, but I don't tend to do that with the Johannas because they're not drawn in realistically, so I just colour them whimsically. It's a lot easier to colour these than some other pages, because you don't have to worry about any kind of realism. And again, you certainly don't have to worry that these paints are going to dry, because a damp brush will just bring them back to life. Or you can spray them if you can find a fine spray. If you can find a fine spray, you'll be fine. I'm going to leave the edges to be paler, I think. Kind of like the idea that they're going to be paler. So, again, it's you get some beautiful soft highlights. And it's not very often that you suddenly find yourself in your own little world. We'll try what that one looks like. Oh, that's the paler one. That's a sap green, and you can tell it's a different green. It's definitely a paler green. I think I'll just do a few of the others. What was the other colour? We had a tree trunk colour, so let's have a look. This is a yellow ochre, so it's probably too pale. Oops. If the brush is too wet, you nip it here, and you're not wasting the colour, but the brush becomes better behaved. I think I might actually like a darker one, I think. Again, you can always go back in there later, but if you start pale, you can't go paler once you're dark, so it's always a good idea. And then we've got Grumbly Pants having a bit of a moan. So I think we'll go to number 2 brush, because that's going to be a bit bigger, and then we can kind of get a nice highlight on there. Yeah, we know what's happening, but we can can't do anything about it. So thanks for joining me, guys. It's a very pleasant afternoon in the UK. And again, you can go in darker later on if you want, or do it now, whichever's easiest. Of course, if you have that nice soft colours, do have to keep the rigger damp though, because you won't get the watercolour effect if you don't. So we can manoeuvre that over there, so we've got, and it's going to get paler and paler. Because we can always go back in and put some shadows and low lights in. So I hope the fan's not annoying you, but you can't be in this room without a fan. It's a hot house at the moment, but that's quite nice. I've got a nice little highlight on there. I think I might take that down to be this colour. So I think desperately got yellow ochre. And again, although it's a page colour, I want a little bit of variation. So I am quite pleased with the colours I made. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kingo. I think you can't hear the fan, thank you. I did hide the microphone underneath the desk, hopefully that it wouldn't, underneath the shelf, hopefully. So this has become yellow ochre now. And of course these leaves will pop out when we put some shadows in them as well. And yellow ochre is kind of like a pale, almost vintagey look for a page. And of course with this watercolour you never have any sharp lines because you can always blend it. They'll always come back to being a watercolour. It's not like the Inktense pencils. I think I might want a bit of dark under here. And then of course the rigger kicks in with its dampness. You do probably want to let it dry though before you start to overwork it or work over it, because again it's a colour page. It's not watercolour, it's a colour page. It's not watercolour paper. But you can always get some lovely highlights. So I kind of like those colours. I like the fact that they're very pale. Thank you, Melody. Tickle under the armpit. Molly said he looks happy. Because I'm tickling him with my brush. Yes, alright, we'll tickle the monkey under the armpits. I think he might fall off though and hurt himself. I'm not sure what the bird's going to do on the monkey, because he's I would have put the monkey on the other side just in case the little bird had an accident. Right, so we've got some up here, and I haven't messed up the greens too much. Remember, all these. Oh, hi Suzanne, welcome to Benny's Designs. Anybody else popping in? Yes, your boy's been a good boy. Let me have a look, see if I can get the camera. And I'll just do that, because otherwise we'll be upside down. So here's the boy. Alfie, good boy. Oh, it was a dirty look, wasn't it? I've shut the cats. Hello, good boy. Hello, Alfie. There's the boy. The cats are in the cool lounge and Alfie's melting. That's the cat box that they'd made at the Abbey. So I took it for the cats and cut holes in it. But it's only stuck with tape, and Big Fat Sooty was sitting on top. But Bungo likes to go inside and play coming out. So a quick studio tour. Oh, he's getting up now. Where are we going? You can't resist being famous, can we, Alfie? Actually, he's not very hot, because the things. Yes, I know. We love you. We love you. We love you. Oops. So we've got concrete floor, and you can see all the damp. I was just practicing if anything would stay up to stop the beautiful sunshine, which I don't like to do, but if I turn that all the way around, we come back to the view I have outside. So that's my messy garden out there. But as you can see, it's a beautiful day. They're my buddleia trees. They are huge. That's to stop the dog going down the garden, but she still jumps over it. So I'll do a studio tour when I get things a lot better. At the moment, I'm still waiting for the magic men to help. Right, hopefully we should be back on the table. We're not too far away, I don't think. Oops. Oh, we're upside down, guys. 2 seconds. It's a wonder I can remember anything. I do that every time. Should be the right way around now. Sorry, guys. There we go. Yeah. Do you want to move your feet, darling? Good boy. Because I'm frightened of catching you with my chair. So, stride, it's nice and flat, which again we like. Now what we could do is get the 10-0 liner, and I'll put it next to that's the number 1. So we've got number 1 and number 2, so we can see how small it is. And this is where we can go in, and we've got a nice little highlight there, but we can kind of pick out oh, this was my purple. So this is the purple, so it's not too bad. Oops, that's the purple, but it's a dull purple, so it will do some nice. I think it might do some nice deep dark shadows. so we can kind of build up a bit of character. So we'll look on our little monkey, and you can have a bit of a shadow under his neck. So this is what you can do afterwards. You go in and you start to think about where are the dark bits. You may have a bit of shadow. His tail may have a bit of shadow. And the leaves especially. Now you can do two things. You can go really drastic, or you can do oops, subtle. That was the phone. So this isn't too drastic. This is just a slightly darker. You could just, and again, even the same colour. You can do this with the same colour. Because that one's over the top of that one. And you could do a nice shadow. So you can leave it as a shadow, or you can make it part of and you can go back in with the olive colours, and they've dried, so reconstitute them. You can always reconstitute them almost to nothing. So again, this one here, we've got a shadow. There's kind of a lot of shadows on this one. This one will have a shadow. So you can start putting things in now. Melody says, yeah. Yeah, I think he's in a bit of a vulnerable position, really, don't you? Yes, naughty bird, naughty bird. Just have an even look on his face. So this is where you can start putting, so you've got an initial highlight. But if you wanted to, you can go back in. But again, you've got to let it dry. Now, it's very warm in this room, so that's fine. But normally overnight, always overnight. And I've got too much of a headache for hairdryers, but overnight definitely. And again, these are kind of a bit pale now, so this is where, with this really tiny brush, we can go back in there with the olive colour. And as I say, we can do one of two things. We can put veins in them, or we can put shadows in them. And then we can go, probably use the number 1 brush for that, I think, if we want a shadow. So we used, that's yellow ochre, so we used this brown here. So this is the brown we used, so we can wet this. And if you don't want it full strength, you can move it to where you want it. So we'll pick up a bit of this. Now, again, I don't normally do that with this particular brush, but I've only used the tip of the brush. So now I can go back in here, and I can make this dark because it's got all the shadows in it. Or you can make it darker. And then you can bring that round. So you can either go very dark or you can go just a little bit, depending on the effect of the shadow that you want. So probably all that's in shadow because of these leaves, and then there's a bit of shadow underneath. And then if you really didn't like that, you can take a very barely damp rigger and just blend it away so it becomes can keep pushing that away, so you've got a blended effect. And that's what I was doing with the other Johanna page. So again, you just manipulate this back away, so you end up with pale at the bottom and dark at the top, and it's a more blended than a very, very strong shadow. It's just a pale shadow, and you possibly could do the same with this one. So you've got just a hint of something going on. We seem to have got lots of pale colours on here. Again, going to the half rigger, which is a bit thicker than the other one, but not much. And we've got some kind of strawly ones down here. I get the impression that they could be kind of almost yellow, like a Chinese yellow. So I'm just picking up some yellow, and then I'm going to put it, I'm picking up the tiniest little bit, I put it here, and then just picking up the tiniest little bit of green, just the tiniest, and that now is Chinese green. And I think that will look quite nice on there. And these might be the same. Now I'm going to put the brush into here to kind of water it down. If you start at the bottom and working up, and again, you've got to remember you're not on watercolour paper, you're on colour book paper. And again, that does make a difference. I've done that the same colour. I think that could be slightly different, but and now because we're bigger, we need to be with a bigger brush really, because we've got more chance of making a mistake. So we'll swap to our number 2 brush, pick up that yellow, or Chinese green, I'm going to change that one. I think I might like that quite dark. So again, the half rigger, Pro Art half rigger. Is I think we're going to go for this kind of really nice green that I made earlier. This one. I'm going to put it here, and there's a touch of French ultramarine that I dropped. So just there was a little bit of ultramarine, so that's made that almost like let me have a look. It's like a viridian, that one now, because it's got the French ultramarine in it, so I kind of like that. And there's going to be just enough to do down here, so again, make sure you've got enough. If you haven't, start at the bottom where it's darkest and work upwards to do the opposite of what I'm doing. And then you'll have a natural highlight as you're running out of paint and nobody will know. So I kind of like that. Oh, I'll tell you later, Susie. I'll tell you later, Suzanne. Oops. There's the elf again. He's going back on his... I think he might be getting a bit hot, so I might have to put him in the other room. So I've done half a page, and that's just about an hour. So I'll pan out, and you can see how far I've got. So I would think we've done slightly more than half, but probably this is a bit more fiddly. And again, it's flat, it's watercolour, but I love the colours, and again, they're all from these very bright colours, but I've used them with a rigger, so there's kind of a little bit of colour, and there's been a lot of dampness, but not much colour. So you can be strong and bright if you want to be, but I've made a turquoise, I've made, that looks like my favourite, it's a turquoise green, a turquoise blue, and then I've got a purple blue. So I've made some really pretty colours here with the greens, and the green I made from this blue and the cerulean blue. So by using the cerulean blue and the cerulean blue green, I've made a green turquoise and a blue turquoise. So again, I like that, almost a phthalo green and a phthalo blue. So I kind of like those colours. Probably wouldn't have done the bird too strong, but I suppose he's going to sit okay. Can go back in there and do other things, but it is dry. I probably would leave it and do it another day. So put one coat on and then go back in and put some really nice darks in, and then kind of really make things pop. So that's the end of using my colours that I made, my 21 colours that I made from 6 tubes of paint. And I always like them in that order because that's the order on the colour wheel that they are. So from those 6 colours I made 21, including Payne's Grey, and oranges, reds, purple, some greens and some gorgeous browns and olives, and there's just £8 worth of paints there. And as you can see, I've hardly touched any of them. So thanks for watching.